Wines. Content table. Introduction. Definition and history of wines. Classification. On the basis of color, nature, and taste. Production. Of still, sparkling, and fortified wines. Introduction. Definition and history of wines. Definition. Wine is an alcoholic beverage made by the fermentation of the juice of freshly harvested grapes as per the local laws and traditions of the region. For example, champagne. History of wine. The earliest known traces of wine are from Georgia, circa 6000 BC, Iran, Persia, circa 5000 BC, and Sicily, circa 4000 BC, although there is evidence of a similar alcoholic drink being consumed earlier in China, circa 7000 BC. The liquor industry is almost as old as man himself. Monks in France made wine for years, aging it in caves. The first known mention of grape-based wines in India is from the late 4th century BC writings of Chanakya, known as Madhu. The earliest archaeological and archaeobotanical evidence for grape wine and viniculture, dating to 6000, in 5800 BC, was found on the territory of modern Georgia. The descendants of the sacramental wine were refined for a more palatable taste. This gave rise to modern viticulture in French, Italian, Spanish, and these wine grape traditions were brought into New World wine. The Romans discovered that burning sulfur candles inside empty wine vessels kept them fresh and free from a vinegar smell. Classification of wines. On the basis of color. Red wine, white wine, rosé wine. On the basis of nature. Still wine, sparkling wine, aromatized wine, fortified wine. On the basis of taste. Dry wine, sweet wine. On the basis of color. Red, white, and rosé wines. Red wines. Color. Purple when young to brick red when aged. Grape. Black grape variety. Productions. The skin off the grapes is left in the must during the fermentation process. Examples. El Pionero Cabernet Sauvignon, Le Vide Merlot. White wines. Color. Pale straw with a green tinge to dark gold. Grape. Black and white grape. Variety. Productions. The skin of the grapes is removed before starting the fermentation process to avoid color extraction. Examples. La Cresta Pinot Grigio, Domaine Walbach Riesling. Rosé wines. Color. Light pink to rose gold in color. Grape. Mixture of red and white grapes or only black grape variety. Productions. The skin of red grape is allowed to remain in contact with must, till the required tinge is obtained, usually 48 hours or lesser. Examples. White Zinfandel, Cabernet Sauvignon Rose. On the basis of nature. Still wines, obtained by the natural fermentation process without adding anything else. The carbon dioxide produced during fermentation is allowed to escape. Alcohol percent equals 10 to 14% ABV. E.g., red, white, rosé wines. Sparkling wines. These are the wines bottled with the carbon dioxide produced during fermentation. Effervescence or sparkle in wine. The carbon dioxide is prevented from escaping. Alcoholic percent equals 10 to 13% ABV. Carbon dioxide is added by secondary fermentation or impregnate. Example. Champagne, sparkling wines like Cava, Spain, Sekt, Germany, etc. Aromatized wines. The wine's alcoholic strength is increased with the addition of brandy or other spirit either during or at the end of the fermentation. The carbon dioxide is released. Alcohol strength ranges from 16 to 22% ABV. Examples: sherry, port, Madeira, Marsala, and Malaga. Fortified wines. These wines are fortified and aromatized with herbs, bark, spices, roots, etc. The carbon dioxide is released. Alcohol content is 14 to 20% ABV. Example: vermouth is the most popular aromatized wine. On the basis of taste, dry wines. A dry wine is the one in which all the sugar is converted into alcohol. It gives a dry taste and feel in the mouth due to the absence of sugar. Example: Cabernet Sauvignon. Sweet wines. It is obtained when there is some sugar left after fermentation, stopped naturally or intentionally by the manufacturer. Sweet taste among all wine due to the presence of sugar. A sweet wine contains residual sugar, unfermented sugar. Most of the sweet wines of the world are white. The sweet wine made by adding extra sweetening agents after fermentation is generally inexpensive. Sweet wines whose sugar content is from natural grape sugar or the authentic sweet wines are expensive. The principal strategies for sweet wine production are controlled fermentation, straw mat, aka pasito, addition of reserved juice, ice vine, use of late harvest grapes, raisins, botrytis affected grapes. Production of wines. Viticulture. Viticulture denotes how the vine is cultivated. It involves vine selection, keeping the vineyard healthy, plowing to aerate the soil, weeding, fertilizing, pruning to regulate quality, training the vines, spraying to combat diseases, harvesting. Viticulture, from the Latin word for vine, is the science, production, and study of grapes. It deals with the series of events that occur in the vineyard. It is a branch of the science of horticulture. It is the care and maintenance of the vine so as to obtain a best possible fruit and further a best possible wine. The grape consists of a number of elements: skin, which provides tannins and color; stalk, which provides tannins; pips, provide bitter oils; pulp, contains sugar, fruit acids, water, and pectins. Vinification, the process of conversion of grape juice into wine. The process central to vinification is fermentation. Base for all alcoholic beverages, not only for still, sparkling, and fortified wines but also to spirits, liqueurs, and beers. Vinification involves the following steps in sequence: 1. Plucking, 2. Crushing, 3. Fermentation, 4. Racking, 5. Filtration, 6. Aging, 7. Fining, 8. Bottling, 9. Corking. Plucking, the grapes picked by two ways, hand-picked, is costly and time-consuming. Select the best quality grapes, used for the preparation of costly wines. Mechanical method, it is efficient, cost-effective, used in large vineyards. The traditional method, pickers go out into the field with secateur, special cutting scissor. Crushing, the harvested washed grapes are dumped into a large hopper called crusher, destemmer. This cracks the berries, allowing the sugar-rich juice known as free run must to flow freely. The must obtained from crushed grapes is stored in vats, where they are lightly spread with sulfur dioxide to kill unwanted microorganisms. Fermentation, it is a process of transferring grape juice into wine. Ideal temp is 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. The vats are cooled by cold water running through metal coils inside the vats. They are known as attemperators. Red wine fermentation takes 5 to 7 days. Temperature below 70 degrees Fahrenheit, usually 22 to 25 degrees Celsius. Higher temp is needed to extract more color and tannin from the skin. A small amount of sugar may be added, which is termed as chaptalization if the must does not contain enough natural sugar, subject to local regulation. 2% sugar equals 1% ethyl alcohol concentration. The sugar percent in must is measured by a saccharometer. If the acidity is low, acids can also be added to the must, called as acidification. Red wine fermentation requires cap management. During fermentation, the skin in the vats floats to the surface of the fermenting must. They harden, forming what is known as cap or hat. This cap reduces the extraction of color from the skins and allows CO2 to escape. Rotary panels, manual press, hydraulic press are used to break the cap. Pressing. End of the fermentation, the new wine lies in the bottom and the solid matter floats on the top of the vat. The new wine called vin de goutte is racked into another vat for filtering and aging. The solid matter is pressed to obtain vin de presse. The first batch of vin de presse obtained from the subsequent presses declines progressively in quality. Racking. Impurities and sediments remain in wine are called lees, which are removed by racking. Particles usually are dead yeast cells, grape solids, and solidified dead matters. Filtration. During filtration, the wine is passed through cellulose, asbestos to remove sediments, to save wine from contamination of yeast cells, avoid secondary fermentation. Aging and amp. Maturing. Aging of wines is the storage of wines to develop quality, often in oak wood barrels. The oak may be French or American, air-dried or kiln-dried, toasted or charred. During aging, the wine absorbs the vanilla flavor from the oak and interacts with oxygen that invades through the fine pores. The oxygen eases out tannin and mellows the wine. The wines are often aged in cold areas. Alcohol levels, tannin content, or to improve the color, aroma or flavor. Blended wines are then rested and fined. Again, malolactic fermentation, red wines. During the aging process, a secondary non-alcoholic bacterial fermentation called malolactic fermentation takes place. In this type of fermentation, the bacteria convert the harsh malic acids in the juice into softer lactic acid. This imparts a softer mouthfeel and an overall more inviting palate. Most red wine goes through malolactic fermentation to reduce their acidity. Fining. Fining removes certain microscopic solids remaining in the fermented must. Fining gives clarity and brilliance. Egg white, colloidal silica, bentonite, gelatin, isinglass, etc., are used. Bottling. The wine bottle is slowly filled and topped with either nitrogen or carbon dioxide to displace any oxygen. Capped with either a cork or a screw cap. White and rosé wines, transparent bottles or light green bottles. Champagne and red wines, dark bottles, prevent color change. Sparkling wine bottles have a punt end, stabilize carbon dioxide, due to thick and strong, the pressure of carbon dioxide. Corking. Corks are mainly made up of the oak tree. The world-famous corks, Quercus suber, are mainly found in Spain and Portugal. After shaping, they are steeped first in warm water for a few hours and then in wine. The smooth end of the cork always is towards the wine. A high-quality cork lasts about 50 or more years. Vinification. Table wines make up the largest category of wines and, as the name suggests, include wine primarily suited to accompany food. Table wine will be further classified by color as red. Color varies from purple to slightly red tinge to brown to clear light red. Fermentation temperature 22 to 25 degrees Celsius. Lees may be stirred into avoiding cap formation. White color varies from clear as water to a green tinge to shades of yellow through golden to light brown. Fermentation temperature 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. Maturing. Cold stabilization is done by dropping the temperature below the freezing point. The cream of tartar forms crystals and amp falls out at this temperature, called as white diamond. Rosé color varies from light pink to light orange red. Crushing. Skin remains in must for 48 hours. Fermentation same as red wines. Sparkling wines. Vinification of sparkling wines. Sparkling wine has carbon dioxide, which gives the wine the effervescence or sparkle. There are 4 main methods of making sparkling wine. Méthode champenoise. Origin in the Champagne region of France. Such champagnes are expensive as it takes 3 to 7 years to produce a bottle of champagne. Grapes used: Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier, black grape, provides a fruity flavor and body, and Chardonnay, white grape, contributes finesse and elegance. Cuvée clos or Charmat or tank method. This method was introduced in France by M. Charmat and involves secondary fermentation in a large sealed tank and amp, takes only 10 days to complete. The wine is drawn off through filters under pressure at -3 degrees Celsius, 26 degrees Fahrenheit, and is then bottled. The resulting wine is cheaper than champagne. Transfer method or méthode transversement. This method is almost similar to the method champenoise, except the process is shortened by using filtration and amp fining instead of the lengthy remuage process. Direct impregnation or carbonation or method gazif. This is the cheapest method of making sparkling wine. Carbon dioxide gas is directly impregnated into the wine from a cylinder in the same way as in the making of aerated waters. Vinification. Methode CHAMPENOISE. Plucking. Crushing. Fermentation 1. Blending. Fermentation 2. Bottling. Plucking. There are 2 methods: handpicked, costly and time-consuming. Select the best quality grapes, used for the preparation of costly wines. The traditional method, pickers, use special scissors to cut, secateur. Mechanical method, efficient, cost-effective, used in large vineyards. Grape varieties: Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Pinot Meunier. Crushing. First pressing is known as vin de cuvées. Second pressing is called premier taillé. Third pressing is deuxième taillé. Fourth pressing is rebêche. Fermentation 1. Primary fermentation. The first fermentation occurs in a wooden vat. Up to racking and amp fining, the method followed is similar to that involved in white winemaking. Temperature: 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. Gas produced is allowed to escape. Blending. The clear wine is blended with wine from different vineyards of the Champagne region, in varying proportions, to achieve the desirable balance of flavor and acidity. Secondary fermentation. 1. Liqueur de tirage. Before the fermentation begins, liqueur de tirage, dosage de tirage, a small amount of cane sugar and yeast, is added to old wine to induce secondary fermentation. Secondary fermentation starts in corked bottle about 6 weeks after bottling, will take about 3 to 6 months to complete. The second fermentation, prise de mousse, means making the sparkle. The bottles are taken to an underground cellar, temperature 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 degrees Celsius. 2. Remuage. The bottles are placed in racks, pupitre, with oval holes with their necks tilted slightly downwards. The specialist worker, remueur, twists the bottles kept in a horizontal position from time to time and turns them to a slightly higher angle. This happens to each bottle every 3 days for about 6 weeks until the bottle stands vertically with the neck downwards, called sur la pointe. The process is called remuage to collect the sediments in the cork. 3. Dégorgement. The process of removing the sediments from the bottle cork is called dégorgement. The bottle neck is dipped in a freezing brine solution to freeze a wine containing the sediments. When the cap is removed, the pressure inside the bottle expels the ice with the sediments. 4. Liqueur d'expédition. The champagne which was lost during dégorgement is replaced with liqueur d'expédition, similar wine and cane sugar solution. Bottling. Recorking, shaking, resting, packing. After the addition of dosage, the permanent cork is forced in and secured with agrafe. Wine is rested for 4 to 6 months to allow it to settle. Finally, the wine bottles are cleaned, labeled, and dispatched. Size of champagne bottle: Magnum 2 bottles, 1.5 liter. Jeroboam 4 bottles, 3 liter. Rehoboam 6 bottles, 4.5 liter. Methuselah 8 bottles, 6 liter. Salmanazar 12 bottles, 9 liter. Balthazar 16 bottles, 12 liter. Nebuchadnezzar 20 bottles, 15 liter. Champagne term meaning brut, very dry. Sec, dry. Demi-sec, semi-dry. Demi-doux, semi-sweet. Doux, sweet. Fortified wines. These wines are strengthened by the addition of alcohol, usually brandy. This is done either during fermentation, as in port, or after fermentation, as in sherry. Examples of fortified wines are port, sherry, Madeira, Marsala, Malaga. Production: sherry, harvesting and pressing. Wooden containers called lagars, where people with boots studded with nails, zapato de pasar, are used. About 85% of the first pressing is used to make sherry. Fermentation. Must is then transferred to bodega. The casks are bunged with about 80% liquid so that oxygen reacts with the wine. The wine is fortified with brandy to 15.5%. The high alcoholic content favors the formation of a yeast-like substance, the flor. If a thick film forms, then fine sherry is made. A thin film creates Amontillado, and no film gives rise to Oloroso. Aging and blending is done in nurseries or cryoderas, 18 to 24 months. The blending process is carried out in the Solera system, a series of casks, barrels, butts, all containing a similar type of wine. The casks are arranged in similar groups one above the other. Each group is older than its predecessor. The Solera system has several rows of identical barrels, butts, each holding 130 gallons. Each row is termed as scale or cryodera. The bottom row of barrels, termed as Solera, contains the oldest sherry, and the topmost cryodera is topped with new wine annata. Fining and bottling. The sherry drawn from the bottom is fined with albumin in the white of egg. After filtering, the sherry is bottled, and further addition of brandy makes it 17% to 22%. It is refrigerated to further stabilize it and to remove cloudiness. Production. Port. The grapes are collected by hand. They are taken to a centrifugal crusher, and fermentation is done in an AUTOVINIFICATOR. This is a container that is sealed, and the built-up carbon dioxide during fermentation is used to push the must through the skin cap and sprayed over the skin, resulting in maximum extraction of color and flavor, and is continued until the right sugar content is reached. 6 bomb. The fermented must, alcoholic strength is 6 to 8%, is added with local brandy, aguardiente in the ratio of 4 to 1 to reach the alcoholic percentage of 16%. The wine is left over winter to attain clarity. It is further fortified to 21% alcoholic strength before being classified and transferred to pipes. Production. Madeira. After pressing, the juice is quickly transferred for fermentation. The wine obtained is known as vinho claro, which is then fortified with local brandy. This wine is then stored in pipes, casks, and then placed in a stufa, a large centrally heated store. The casks containing wine are gradually heated to 50 degrees Celsius, held at this temperature for about 3 months, and then slowly cooled down to normal temperature. This results in a caramel-like flavor of wine. It stabilizes the wine and increases the quality. The wine now is indifferent to heat and cold and can withstand exposure to air. Production of Marsala. The method of preparation is similar to sherry up to a certain level. It is made from the blend of white wine, brandy and heated must, which is then matured in the Solera system. Production of Malaga. The method of preparation is similar to sherry up to a certain level. It is produced from the grapes dried on the straw mats in the sun. It is blended with concentrated grape juice after fermentation and is then fortified and matured in the Solera system.